Okay, welcome back to another vid. So this is going to be a tag response vid. Now, this is a tag which I only discovered, a channel I only discovered probably 48 hours ago. So I've not fully explored their content. But obviously, I'm going to do a response. Here I am doing it because it was really interesting. It's a childhood nostalgic tag. Is that the actual title of it? I think it is. Yeah, childhood nostalgia tag. And I'm all about nostalgia. I always bloody talk about it. So I thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity to do this. And if you like the idea of doing it, then please do it as well. Yeah, so the channel are called Two Vloggers More. It's two vloggers, funnily enough. It's a bit of a mixed channel. I'm not going to lie, I've not watched a lot of stuff because I've only just discovered the channel. But I've watched a couple of vids, including the one obviously I'm responding to. And yes, it's just kind of a vlog channel. They do unboxings of toys, nostalgic toys and books. And they've just done a Disney park tag. They've done a Tenerife vacation vlog, which is spread out over a number of vids. And I went to Tenerife quite a long time ago now, but so that was kind of interesting. Been to Disney as well, so I think I'll touch upon that in one of my answers. So if you like the idea of doing a response, please do, because it'll be really interesting, because we're all nostalgic, surely. So, and obviously check out the channel. I'll put a link in the description box, and if I remember, I should say, at the end of the vid, then I'll mention about doing a response if you want and all that kind of stuff again. But in case I forget, then now check out the description box. And yeah, so let's move on. So the first question, what decades were you a kid during, and do you think they were better than current day? Well, I was born, funnily enough, 78, hence Plutonic 78. I can't remember 1978, I was born during it, and I can't remember 1979, or even like 80 or 81 really. It's probably really the early to mid-80s is when I start remembering a lot of stuff. So I'd have to say, obviously, the 80s and probably the 90s, let's say like kind of the early 90s in particular. You know, I turned a teenager during 1993, 92, 93. And yeah, it was 93, I think. Jesus, kind of, you get older. I touched upon this like a couple of vids back. You get older and you sometimes forget your age and how old you were in certain years. It's ridiculous. So yeah, turned a teenager during 1993. And so I'm going to include the early 90s as well. So 80s and 90s, a great era. But was it better than the current day? Or is it better than the current? I don't think so, not really. I think obviously the thing is, when you're a kid, you don't have any responsibilities. Not really. You know, for the most part, your average kid doesn't have any at all. Everything is done for you, you know, by your parents or other members of the family, older siblings perhaps. But as a kid, not really. You just go to school, and even then you're probably taken to school or taken to the bus stop, or even if you go to yourself to the bus stop or walk yourself, it's a simple thing to do. You know, you don't have to pay bills, you don't have to work. There's no real responsibilities. You don't have to arrange anything. You don't have to build anything. You don't, other than your Lego or anything like that. You're not fixing things. It's very, very easy. No responsibilities. But that naivety was great. I mean, even things like, you know, summer holidays, school holidays, they'd last for what, 6 weeks? But it lasted forever. Whereas as an adult, 6 weeks just flies by just like that. But as a kid, it took absolutely ages. I remember the summer holidays just lasting for, well, 6 weeks, but seeming like they lasted for 6 months. It went on and on and on. It was crazy. Because, again, back then, no responsibilities. So if a friend came up to you and said, you know, what are you doing on Thursday? You'd be like, well, nothing. Unless you did have something planned with some other friends. You'd be like, well, not a lot. Do you want to go out to wherever? All right. You want to play football next Friday? Yeah, all right, let's do it. Whereas as an adult now, if someone comes up to me and says, you know, Alex, what are you doing on Tuesday? I'm going out to dinner. You know, I've got a dinner arrangement. Oh, bloody hell. What are you doing on Wednesday? Oh, I've got to fix that fence in the garden. Bloody hell, that's really enough. All right, what are you doing next Friday, the following Friday? Oh, we're going out to watch a movie. You're doing things as an adult. So you're much busier. You know, you haven't got as much free time because it's responsibilities. So as a kid, you've got no real responsibilities. So it seems as if things were better in the day because you just chill out and do what you wanted to, and there was no real stress. So yeah, that's my answer. It wasn't better back then. It was better for you as a person back then, but it's all relevant, isn't it? But when you can look at it in hindsight and be like objective, not really. There's so many things as an adult you couldn't do as a kid, which are great. So I'd say being a kid was fantastic, but it wasn't better, which may be a bit of an odd choice. I think most people probably say it was better. I don't think it was. It was good, but I think being an adult is probably better. Question number 2. What was your favourite toys, or what were your favourite toys as a kid? So for me, I mean, I've listed a load of answers on here. Things like Star Wars figures, He-Man, Transformers, Mask Crusaders, if anyone remembers those. Zoids, they were around for a while. Supernatural toys. I think those were kind of like knights. They knights with like swords and stuff. I think some of them are monsters as well. And they had like a holographic body. So if it like shined at a certain angle, or with the reflection of the light, there was like some kind of like, again, like maybe a knight, or then sometimes if you turned the knight or the figure in another direction, it was like a werewolf or something. Kind of vague memories of that. But I had a few of those. Thundercats, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, or Ninja Turtles, depending on where you were. The Viewfinder. I used to love the Viewfinder. Top Trumps. Does anyone remember those? You know, the cards where you'd compare, like, you know, if it was cars, you'd have the gas cylinders or whatever it was called, and the speed, of course, all that kind of stuff. And also there was like a certain card or a deck of Top Trumps that I had, and it's just coming to me now, actually, and I'm sure it was based on like monsters. There was like Dracula, Medusa, I think there's like an Axeman. It was pretty gruesome stuff, you know, but back, it's the mid-80s, around about 84, 85, 86 maybe. And yeah, I'm sure it was called something like the Monsters Pack. If I can find any pictures, I'll probably start putting them up. Maybe I have already. And yeah, I specifically remember having those, but pretty scary cards. All the Top Trumps things I had. I can't remember now. There's Star Wars. I'm sure there's Star Wars ones, football ones, based on movies as well. So that was, the Top Trumps were big. They were big back in the day. I think they tried to make a comeback a few years ago, but whether they did or not, I'm not sure. Maybe they're still going. I don't know. Lego. I absolutely loved Lego. Lego Pirates, Lego Knights, the police station, the hospital. I had that one. All sorts of little tiny set pieces. That I'd have, like little cars and stuff. Absolutely loved Lego. Been looking on eBay recently, and they're so bloody expensive. But I still want to get some of them back, so maybe that's for future vids. The big pirate ships. I mean, they cost a fortune. We're looking at several £100s for some of these things. But it's not going to deter me. If I want them, I'll get them. So so that's just a few things. I mean, things like Teddy Ruxpin and stuff. I mean, that was really probably catered more towards my sister. She's 7 years younger than me, so she had all that kind of stuff. Was his friend Grubby? Was it Gubby or Grubby? I think it was Grubby. Glowworm. I had a glowworm, got to be honest. So yeah, all that kind of stuff. Those are the toys I had. Predominantly figures, 18 figures as well. Back in the early to mid-80s, I used to really like those. But I'd say probably Star Wars, Transformers, He-Man, those were the main things. Favourite TV shows as a kid, which is question number 3. Yeah, I've put a massive list on here. I'll go through some of them, not all of them, because there's probably 100 shows I've kind of listed. Well, maybe not that many. But things like Saturday Superstore, like Saturday morning kids TV, which is a crying shame that they don't have it these days. Well, maybe they brought it back. I live in America, and I've lived in America for nearly 10 years. But I do know that going back a few years, they took it all off, and it was replaced with like cooking programmes and stuff. A crying shame. But yeah, Saturday Superstore, which then morphed into Going Live and Live and Kicking. There was one called Motormouth and Gimme 5, if anyone remembers that one. It was only around for a couple of years, I think, back in the early 90s. Saved by the Bell, I think that was 1989 when it started. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I think that was the following year, 1990. And then a lot of cartoons, again, the Turtles, Banana Man, Danger Mouse, Dogtanian, I love Dogtanian. Trapdoor, DuckTales, Postman Pat, Super Ted, The Family Nest, Godzilla and Godzuki. There's another one that's just sprung to mind. I used to love that one. So yeah, cartoons are massive. Dungeons and Dragons. I absolutely adored that. That was fantastic. And then in terms of actual TV shows, because obviously a lot of them were just cartoons I've just mentioned. But things like Knight Rider, The A-Team, Airwolf, Street Hawk, The Fall Guy, The Dukes of Hazzard, Magnum, Quantum Leap, which is brilliant, late 80s, early 90s. But most of that stuff I've just mentioned was mid-80s. Classic American mid-80s stuff. The American stuff was the best from that era for that kind of action kind of programme. There's one called Manimal. I don't know if anyone remembers Manimal. I think it lasted one series in around about 83, 84. And I do remember it, but obviously I was very, very young. And it was this guy, I think he was he like a private detective or something? Something like that. But he turned into animals. It was really ridiculous. Hence, you know, the Manimal thing. So if like he wanted to spy on people, he would turn into like a bird and be perched on a tree outside listening in. Or he could be at a zoo and he'd morph into like a panther or a tiger or something like that. It was so insane. But it was good, at least as a kid. Now, I've not watched it for 20 odd years, probably more. And I'm going to have to YouTube it. Surely it's on YouTube. If not, you've got to check it out. Manimal. Really good, but probably really cheesy. And then a lot of British TV programmes, kind of cop shows, like Dempsey and Makepeace in the mid-80s. If anyone remembers that, I used to love that one. Minder, Boone. There's one called Rockcliffe's Babies. Again, a cop show. I loved that. Lovejoy, Poirot. Absolutely adored those. Bergerac. I didn't write that down on a list, but again, it's just come to me. Love that one. Keeping Up Appearances, One Foot in the Grave. Bread, Blackadder, Only Fools and Horses, The Young Ones. Loads of programmes. And then a lot of like game shows, such as No's House Party, Catchphrase, Bullseye, Strike It Lucky, Blankety Blank, Generation Game. I could go on, but I absolutely loved all that nostalgic stuff. So predominantly from the mid-80s up into, or early 80s, up into like kind of the early 90s, pushing mid-90s. That's my kind of nostalgic zone, if you like. I love all that kind of thing. So yeah, I could have listed a lot more, but I think that's enough for you to sink your teeth in. Some of my favourite TV shows there as a kid. I know I've missed out a lot of good ones, but I think I mentioned maybe more than I should have there. Question number 4. Top 3 favourite childhood movies. Now, this is quite difficult to do. I'm going to give a few notable mentions to The Never-Ending Story, which I saw at the cinema. Ghostbusters, saw it at the cinema. In fact, the thing I remember about that is I went with 2 friends of mine, 2 brothers called Jamie and Stuart, and their mum as well. And then one day randomly, well I say randomly, obviously they were planning on going, but his mum, or their mum, turned around to me and said, do you want to come along? We're going to see Ghostbusters tonight. I went, oh yeah, great. She went, do you want to check with your mum and dad first? Okay. So we went over to back to my house, and my mum was probably at work, and I remember saying to my dad, oh, can I go to Ghostbusters with Jamie and Stuart and the mum? And my dad was like, I thought we were going to go to Ghostbusters like next week. And I was like, oh, because I couldn't remember that. And I went, oh, well, okay. And he went, well, what do you want to do? He said, do you want to go with Jamie and Stuart, or do you want to go with me? Or with him? You know, put me under pressure in front of them. And I remember going, oh, I want to go with Jamie and Stuart. And he was like, oh, charming, great. Now, he was joking, obviously, but I remember thinking like I'd offended him. Obviously, I didn't really get the sarcasm at 5 or 6 years of age. So, yeah, we went to Ghostbusters. And it's funny, isn't it, that even though I was young, because I think that was 1984, so again, I was 5 or 6, depending on whatever time of the year it came out. But it's funny that even though I was young, I remember it vividly, sitting there, and vividly remembering, like, I think the first few minutes especially, where that ghost is in the library, you know, where she turns around, she's like, shh. And then like a few minutes later, she screams at the camera, like right in your face. And it freaked me out as a kid. It freaked me out. But yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday, as that cliche goes. The Goonies, E.T., Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Again, notable mentions for these. I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It should really be in the top 3, but it isn't. It was edged out, but it could be. I could interchange it quite easily. But anyway, let's fast forward to the top 3. So in at number 3, and I've got 3 props here. So in at number 3, and I'm cheating for all of them, really. But in at number 3, it's Back to the Future, or the Back to the Future trilogy. So this is, obviously I've got the Blu-rays here. Now, I love it. And the first one's fantastic. The second one's really good. The third one got a lot of stick. Maybe still does, but I love it. I think it's brilliant. And funnily enough, that's another one I saw at the cinema. You know, I used to go a lot, obviously back in the 80s and the 90s. I think that would have been kind of early 1990. I'm guessing, because I'm thinking of, I went to a birthday party, which is a question later on about a birthday party, which I'll answer, of course. But yeah, so the whole Back to the Future trilogy is absolutely fantastic. We watched, me and my wife, we watched the first one again, going back probably last year, and we've still to go back and watch 2 and 3, but we will. Really, really good. Back to the Future. I'm sure you've all seen it. It's brilliant. Now, in at number 2, again, I'm going to cheat because it's a trilogy. It's Star Wars. Yeah, so despite being a trilogy, my favourite, I'm going to be a little bit controversial. My favourite for me is Return of the Jedi. Now, I wasn't born when the first Star Wars movie came out in '77. I was too young to remember Empire Strikes Back. But I do remember Return of the Jedi. I remember going to see it at the cinema in 1983. And of course, I was addicted to having all the toys and the sticker albums and all that kind of stuff, and books and cartoons and VHS videotapes of Star Wars, Ewoks and all that kind of thing. So Return of the Jedi is the most nostalgic for me. and I absolutely love it. But Star Wars is brilliant, the whole franchise. Now, in recent years, I've lost touch a little bit with it. I've still not seen the recent ones, the last two, and there's another one due out, isn't there, in a couple of months, I guess, 2 or 3 months. But I've got them on Blu-ray, so I will watch them eventually. Just busy again. That thing as a, you know, being an adult, you've got less spare time. If I was a kid, I'd be watching them 50 times over, you know, by now. But responsibilities, that's what it comes back to, doesn't it? You know, question number one. Now, in at number one, again, slightly cheating. I think there was 4 movies of this one, but I've not watched the 4th because it was rubbish. The 3rd, rubbish as well. The first 2, especially the first, really. But the first 2 are absolute classics. Absolute classics. Probably, arguably, not just my favourite childhood movie, which is the question, but maybe my favourite movie of all time. And it might be a bit weird for some of you, but it's going to have to be Home Alone. Now, this is Home Alone 1 and 2. But Home Alone is such an amazing movie. It's not just an amazing movie, it's an amazing Christmas movie. Every Christmas I want to watch this. It's just so good. Family fun, family entertainment, you know, a happy ending, funny, humorous, it's got action in there. I'm sure you've all seen it, but Home Alone, brilliant. Home Alone 2 is also very, very good. I think the 3rd one had a different actor, didn't it? It wasn't Macaulay Culkin. So I've not even watched it. No interest whatsoever. So yeah, Back to the Future, Star Wars and Home Alone. That's my 3 choices, with Home Alone being number 1. Undisputed number 1. Now I'm just going to scroll down here because I've got the rest of the questions. So, oh goodness me, right, this is a funny one. Tell us about a birthday party experience. I say funny, I mean, you might not think it is. So, March 1993, me and 3 friends went to the UCI 10-screen cinema in Poole, which is next to Bournemouth. And it would have been my birthday party. So it was just, I just went with 4 friends, or 3 friends and me. I had more friends, honestly. I just picked 3 to go with. But yeah, so 3 of my closest friends at the time. I think it was like on a Friday night or something after, no, maybe it was a Saturday. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Whenever it was, we decided to go and see a movie called Under Siege. Under Siege was a 15 rated certificate movie. Now, I was 14. I was nearly 15, but I was 14. 2 of my other friends, Danny and Rob, were 15. They'd just recently turned 15. And my other friend, called Sam, was 13 at the time, 13 and a bit. So he was 13, I was 14, nearly 15, and the other 2 were 15. So it's a 15 rated movie. And obviously, you know, when you're 15, you don't have any ID to say you're 15. You've got IDs, not ED, nearly said ET again there. You've got ID to say you're 18, but not 15. So you just kind of got to go on people believe in you, I guess. And so we decided that we were going to see Under Siege, action movie, Steven Seagal at the time. A lot of people were watching it. It was, you know, really popular at that time. And so we did think, I've got to be honest, we were standing outside and we were like, are we going to get in? Because I wasn't 15, even though I was nearly 15. I was 14, and 2 friends were 15, and the other friend was 13. And we thought, are we going to get in? Yeah, it'll be all right. So anyway, so I went up to buy the tickets, went up to the booth, and there was a woman there, and it was at the booth on the left-hand side. I think there was maybe 5 booths, and the one on the left-hand, the far left, I remember going up there, and there was a woman in there, and she went, you know, how can I help? I said, yeah, 4 tickets, please, to see Under Siege. And she went, oh, okay. And she started to put them through, and she went, that'll be £10 or whatever, because of course it was back in, like, you know, 1993, 92, 93, so it was cheap ticket prices compared to today. So 10, 12 quid, whatever it would have been, I handed it over. Now, just before, or just as she's putting it through, she went, can you just hold on 1 second? I went, yeah, no problem. But I've got to be honest, I was instantly suspicious, because we were all paranoid. We'd been talking about it, you know, are they going to sell us these tickets? And so she comes back a minute or 2 later with this guy, suited and booted, you know, a real kind of job's worth, you know, doing his job full on to the letter of the law. And he's like, all right. And I'm like, hi. And he went, Under Siege? And I went, yeah. He went, underage. I went, what? He went, you're underage. And I went, what do you mean? And he went, you're not 15. I went, yes, I am. He went, you're definitely not 15. Which was harsh, because whilst he was right, I was nearly 15. And he went, those 2 over there, the slightly taller kids, but they were still kids, 15-year-olds. He went, they're possibly 15, but he definitely isn't, pointing to my friend Sam, who was really short and, of course, was 13. He went, I'm sorry, we can't let you win. You've got to be 15 to see the movie. You're going to have to see something else. I was like, oh, for God's sake. So kind of got my money back from the woman at the booth, went back to my friends, and I was like, couldn't get tickets, couldn't get it. He didn't believe I was 15, which I wasn't, and he didn't believe he was 15 either, Sam, and we're like, oh, bloody hell. And we were thinking, what else can we watch? I remember specifically, vividly, there was Lorenzo's Oil, which is a really kind of downbeat movie about some kid who's like on his last legs. We didn't want to watch that. And I think there was Malcolm X, but that may have been an 18. And it just seemed boring to us as a kid anyway, so we weren't even interested. And there's nothing else on that we wanted to watch. We wanted to watch Under Siege. So I remember saying to my friends, I said, don't worry, I've got this. I know what to do. And they were like, well, what are we going to do? I said, right, you two, Danny and Rob, you two are 15, so you two, but I mean, I could have done a better way of doing this. Maybe what I should have done is to get Danny to buy 2 tickets and then Rob to get 2 tickets. But my plan was obviously a bit different than that. So I said, Danny and Rob, you two buy your tickets. They'll let you do it because you look slightly older and you are actually 15. So you get your tickets, and then what I'll do is I'll go up to a booth, a different one, obviously, not the same one, not that stupid, and I'll buy 2 tickets, and Sam can go in there, and then he doesn't have to buy a ticket because no one's going to serve him. He looks way too young. So we thought, okay. So Danny and Rob went up to the booth and to a different one, got 2 tickets for Under Siege, got it fine, walked in. They kind of give us, yeah, we got in, it's fine, good. I don't know why I did that. It was more like an okay. And so they got in. It was brilliant. And when I say got in, I don't mean into the theatre. I mean, they got through the doors. I guess anyone could walk through the doors, obviously, because, that's where you buy your popcorn and you queue up. And there's the arcade machines. I remember Turtles and The Simpsons. WWF WrestleMania was another arcade game they had at the time, which we played on regularly. In fact, we finished the Turtles game, all 4 of us, I think. Maybe it was that day where we finished it because we didn't have a lot to do. We were kicking our heels at things to do because we didn't get in to see the movie in the end. Spoiler alert. So anyway, so Danny and Rob got their tickets, and then I said to Sam, right, you just go through, meet them in there. Just go through the doors, and I'll get 2 tickets, and then we've got them. And then all we've got to worry about is standing in line, but that shouldn't be a problem at all. So Sam goes in, I go up to the booth, a different one. Like I say, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to go up to the same one. And I'm like, hi, yeah, 2 tickets to Under Siege, please. And the guy, another young guy, he was like, how old are you? I went, 15. He went, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. He said, well, who are you going with? Because it was just me ordering 2 tickets. I went, I'm going with a friend. He went, where is he? I went, he's in there. And I kind of pointed through to the back where you could see through the glass. And he went, he's not 15. I went, he is. He went, I'm sorry, mate, I can't do it. I can't let you in. I said, oh, this is unbelievable. So I didn't get the tickets. So I had to go through the doors and say to my friends, can't get tickets. So my 2 friends, Danny and Rob, had to get their money back. And we're like, well, what do we do? Because, my parents had dropped us off for 3, 4, 5 hours. What are we going to do? Now, it turned out to be a really good day in the end, because what we ended up doing was going to the Mega Bowl, which was a big bowling complex, and that had a lot of arcade games that we went on. And we also went on this thing called Quasar Laser, which is like that light gun game, where, it's like you divide into teams. I think, is there a red team and a green team, from memory, I think. And you just go around kind of into the enemy base. And it was the first time we'd ever done that, the Quasar Laser thing. So it was really fun. It ended up being a really good experience. But we wanted to see Steven Seagal's Under Siege, or Seagal, however you pronounce his name. Steven Seagal's Under Siege. And they wouldn't let us in. So that's my story for that. A long, convoluted story where I pretended I was 15. I was nearly 15, but wasn't quite, and we weren't allowed in. Talk about a job's worth. Just let us in to see the movie, seriously. So that is that. Now, question number 6. Is it question number 6 right? Yes, it is. Favourite board games and video game as a kid. Now, I've got a few props for video games, so I'll show those in a second. Just quickly, I'm not going to elaborate too much. But board games. Now, it says board games, but I'm going to mention a few which aren't board games, such as Kongman. And I know the guy who originated, or who did the thread, or the tag. I know he mentioned Kongman, which I used to really, really love. And you basically try and get the marble up to the top of the building, I guess, to the top of King Kong. I used to love that one. Operation Mousetrap, and I know the girl mentioned Mousetrap as well. Kaplunk, Hungry Hippos, Guess Who, Connect 4. I was the master at Connect 4. I absolutely loved it. But I guess technically, those aren't board games. So I'd probably go with some of the classics like Monopoly, Trivial Pursuit, which I've still got now. Got an updated version. Absolutely love that one. And Ghost Castle. If anyone remembers Ghost Castle, I used to really, really like that one. So there's just a few. And I've started to buy a few board games back in recent years, the likes of Monopoly. Ghost Castle, I've got my eye on eBay. I think in America it went by a different name because I remember looking for it and I couldn't find it. But I stand corrected on that. Maybe I'll have another look. So video games, very, very quickly. I think we'll start with possibly my most iconic and nostalgic game of all time. It's not the one I play the most, but in terms of memories, and it would be Street Fighter 2. Absolutely love this on the Super Nintendo. It's a classic. Everybody loves that, surely. Maybe not everybody. Sensible Soccer. Now again, this is on the Super Nintendo, but my memories would be of the Mega Drive, and before that, the Atari ST and the Commodore Amiga. So that's that. We've got Operation Thunderbolt. This one's on the Amiga. I had it on the Amiga, I had it on the ST, but I also had it on the Amstrad, the 8-bit machines, and I loved it. Magic Pockets. Absolutely adore this game. Betty Boo, one of my teenage crushes. I think, well, 12 or 13 when she came out, doing the do. I thought she was absolutely stunning. So, yeah, her music is on this game. Brilliant platform game. We've got Football Manager 2. I love this on the Amstrad. This one's on the Atari ST. But in the mid to late 80s, I absolutely adored this. I was addicted to it, which is funny, because at the top there, you can see it says addictive. It bloody was addictive. Very, very addictive. We've got Emlyn Hughes International Soccer. Again, I had it on the Amstrad. I coaxed two friends who had Commodore 64s and Spectrums into buying it on their computers, and they loved it, and I loved it as well on those versions. The Amstrad was brilliant, and then the Amiga and the Atari ST, those were the definitive versions. This is arguably my favourite football game of all time. I'm not even joking, it's so good. And then last but not least, we've got Lemons. Now, Lemons is a classic platformer, kind of puzzle game really more than anything. Fiendishly difficult in places, but very, very addictive. So that's what I'm going to say for that. I'm going to have a quick swig of orange, which is the healthy option, of course. Fresh orange. Where are we? Question number 7. Tell us a childhood holiday or vacation you fondly remember. So I'm going to have to say it was December, just before Christmas, obviously being December, 1986, and we went to Florida. We went to Disney World in Florida. I think that's right, isn't it? It's Disney World in Florida and Disneyland in California. I'm in California and I've been there to Disneyland, so I should know this. But yeah, I think it's Disney World in Florida. And the weird thing, I've got many memories of that. The first memory is, it's funny, isn't it, how certain songs remind you of certain times. I remember Swing Out Sister with Break Out and Berlin with Take My Breath Away. Those songs were out around about that time. So I remember those from that time. And I associate those songs. Every time I hear them, it takes me back to Florida. I remember being on the freeway just after we'd landed, it being pitch black, and all the huge, like, American signs, the billboards being up as we're going down the freeway or the highway. And it just looking so American, obviously, because it was. I remember Fruit Loops in the hotel that we stayed in. The hotel was called the Viscount Hotel. Now, that hotel still exists, but I think it's had a number of name changes over the years, so it's not the Viscount Hotel anymore. And I think it was only the Viscount Hotel for maybe a couple of years or something, very, very brief. But yes, I remember having Fruit Loops. We'd never had them in England before. I'd never seen them, or maybe other people had them throughout the UK. I'd never seen them. And they tasted really weird, really sweet and sugary, and obviously they were different colours. It was just really odd. Again, very American. I'd seen it on TV, but I just never ever had them before. I remember also standing outside. Now, even though it was December, it was Florida, so it was quite hot. But it started to rain one day, but the rain was warm. It was really freaky. It was like a shower, but it was really strange. It was one of the weirdest experiences ever. So I remember that. I remember going to Disney itself and going on all the rides, like Pirates of the Caribbean, It's a Small World. So I'd say that, that would have to be my example to use. I've been to places like France, I've been to Tenerife. Those were a little bit later, back in the early 90s. In fact, speaking of Tenerife, I think I touched upon it on the start of the vid. The two vloggers more, the people who I'm responding to here, they've just uploaded, I think, their latest or their last video because they did a Disney one, but their last video was a Tenerife vlog. I'm sure of that. So it's kind of funny how I've been to Tenerife as well. But anyway, so I'm going to have to go with the 1986 Disney World Florida experience. My first trip abroad. I was petrified of going on the plane. Absolutely petrified. I remember my mum picking me up from the bus stop at school, and she went, "Oh, I've got really good news." And I was like, "What is it?" She's like, "We're going to Florida." And even though I was only young, 7 or 8, I remember vividly going, "I'm not going." She went, "What do you mean you're not going? You have to." I went, "I don't want to fly." And she went, "Well, we're going to have to fly. How else are you going to get there? Can't go on a ship." Well, we could have, I guess. It would have took like 2 weeks. So she said, "We're going to fly. It's going to be all right." And I was scared stiff. I was scared stiff of going on the plane. Obviously, it was fine. Although, funnily enough, there was turbulence. I remember that. So I've never been a big fan of planes ever since as a result of that. So, but yeah, great memories. My first trip abroad, Florida, 1986. I could elaborate, but I've gone on for too long. You can elaborate maybe on your answer if you've been abroad. Question number 8. What was something you collected as a kid? Now, for me, it would have to be stickers, football stickers predominantly, from the mid-80s up until like kind of the very, very, very early 90s. In fact, probably 90 or 91 would have been the last time I really collected. I did continue to get the odd sticker album here and there, because usually they came with a match magazine or a shoot football magazine. So I got it with the magazine. So I may have bought a few packets, but I was hardcore in the 80s and right at the turn of the 90s. And things like, World Cup sticker albums and European Championships. But even things like He-Man sticker albums, Transformers, again, all back in the mid-80s. What else did I have? The Black Cauldron. I had, believe it or not, Mask, Thundercats, those are 2 others. Did I say Star Wars? I think I did. Transformers, I vividly remember having that. I also remember, I don't mind admitting this, I had, and I can't even blame my sister, it was me. I had a Care Bears sticker album, which I completed. But I'll tell you why. Hear me out. I'd finished my football sticker album. I think I'd finished my Black Cauldron one. So it would have been 85, 86. And I think I'd finished my Transformers one. And I loved stickers. So I wanted to collect more. And the only one that they had that I was kind of remotely interested in, or maybe just the only one they had at all, was Care Bears. And so I thought, well, I love stickers. I want to collect them. I bought the album. And I bought a load of stickers. And I remember this girl giving me a really strange look when I went up to her and I went, "Yeah, 10 packets of Care Bears stickers, please." Again, I was young. I was 6 or 7, so it didn't matter. But she still gave me a bit of a weird look. She was probably like a teenager at the time. But I didn't care. And I finished that album. I probably still got it somewhere, maybe. Not with me in America. But if I ever do find it or discover it, I'll maybe show it on a video. Maybe. No promises. So yeah, massively into stickers as a kid. So that's the answer that I'll give for that one. Question number 9. Do you still have any of the toys, games or items you held dear as a child? Well, yes, I do. But, as I think I've mentioned 3 or 4 times now, I live in America. So all of those toys and games, all that kind of stuff will be at my mum's house. And it's probably on the loft, quite frankly, or stored away. So if and when we go back to the UK on a holiday, or if we ever move back in the future, which maybe we will, never say never. If I get my way, we will. One day, maybe. Then again, that could be something which I can show on future vids. But yeah, I imagine I know for a fact I've got a load of my original Amstrad games from back in the 80s and right at the turn of the 90s. I'm sure I've got some of my Atari ST stuff, when it comes to computer games. I'll have all of my old VHS videos that I had, things like Terminator 2 and Total Recall, and those are from the early 90s again. And anything from that era that I didn't sell or get rid of, I'll still have. All my original Star Wars figures, my mum sold, thank you very much. Got rid of all those. What else did I have? Just toys, basically. The majority of toys are probably long, long gone. But all the expensive stuff, Star Wars figures, they've gone. Transformers, Mask figures, He-Man, all of them went, which is a real shame, because a lot of those go for an absolute fortune now. But whatever. It's just materialistic stuff. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, I do have some stuff, but it'll be on the loft, and I don't have access to it right now, but maybe one day. And then last but not least, if I scroll down, question number 10, did you ever take toys into school for show and tell, or end of term? If so, what? Now, for show and tell, I guess you mean to either just to show off or just not necessarily to show off, just to say, hey, look what I've got, and to kind of play with it with your friends and stuff. And by the end of term, I presume you mean like a last day of term where everyone kind of takes their toys in, like a toy day, basically. And if so, well, yes to both those questions. Specifically Toy Day, really. Yeah, Toy Day usually coincided with the last day of school, which also coincided with that night usually being a school disco. You know, you'd pay like 10 pence for a cup of Coke, Coca-Cola, not the drugs, obviously, that'd be a weird school. You'd have your 1 penny chews and maybe some Snickers, or would it have been Marathon back then? Mars bars, all that kind of stuff. And then you'd dance the night away, wouldn't you, to the likes of Rick Astley, Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, Bananarama, Wham, whatever was doing, Black Lace, Agadoo. A novelty song had to come on, of course. Or they had another one, didn't they? Was it Superman? I think they had that one. That was Black Lace. But yeah, predominantly Kylie and Jason and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I definitely had that. But in terms of toys which we'd take in during the day for the last day of school, yeah, I remember taking things like Super Cup football, which was a motorised football game that you'd wind it up and the noise would be relentless. And then I think you'd flick or twist the little the button on there and try and score a goal. It's a two-player game. I guess you could have 3 or 4, really. But predominantly it was best for 2 players. And I think, could you play against the computer? Or again, well, it was kind of a computer, I guess, inside it, wasn't it? I think you possibly could. I'm not certain on that one, though. But I absolutely loved that game. Things like Scalextrics. I never took Scalextrics into school, but I used to have it as a kid. Those were some of my favourite toys, which I guess I could have mentioned earlier on. But some people brought it into school. I used to absolutely love that. But the reason I didn't is because it was too, you know, it's too messy, wasn't it? Bringing it in and, you know, too clunky, setting it up and then dismantling it and taking it back home. I couldn't be bothered with that. So I let other kids do that. I'd go on it, of course. But no, I didn't actually take it in myself. But I had it, again, back in the mid to late 80s predominantly. I absolutely love Scalextrics. And Subutio, that was another thing I was obsessed with. I was obsessed with Subutio as a kid. It was the football figures, of course. You'd have the pitch, either the cloth one or the AstroTurf, which I vividly remember someone bringing in on one of these last day of terms. And the stands, you could have the actual stands and the figures that were hand-painted, or some of them weren't painted and you could paint them yourselves. And we'd painstakingly put them all into the stands. And I absolutely loved that. So I remember people vividly bringing the Subutio stuff in. Yeah, so that's my memories of that. Subutio, Scalextrics, and the Super Cup football, my 2 main memories. I guess other people would bring in figures, against Star Wars and Transformers and all that kind of stuff, or remote control cars, or little helicopters and stuff, which would go about 2 feet off the air, and we thought it was amazing for 10 seconds, and then they'd crash. You know, but apart from that, those really are the main memories that I've got. Scalextrics, Subutio, Super Cup football, which then, like I said, later that night led to the school discos, which were absolutely fantastic. Love the discos. Music was brilliant. Cheesy music, but I really, really, really love that era. Admittedly, probably through nostalgia. So anyway, I'm going to wrap that up. It's a long vid. Now, please, if you want to do a video, do it. I'm not going to tag anyone because I don't want to force people into doing it or put pressure on anyone if you don't really fancy doing it. But if you do want to do it, if it appeals to you, and it should because we all love nostalgia, then please do a response. I would love to hear what you've got to say. Don't think about doing it, do it, because it's a really interesting topic. And all our answers really will probably be different to each other, vastly different. Obviously, we'll have watched a lot of the same shows and all that kind of thing, but there'll be a lot of different answers and memories as well. Certainly when it comes to, like, you know, tell us like a birthday party memory or a holiday memory. That'll be very much different for every person. So please do a response. No excuses. You've got to do it, all right? And also check out 2 Vloggers More. I'll put a link in the description box. I'm off today, tomorrow, the next few days to watch some of their stuff because I've only watched a couple so far, so I'm not that familiar with their vids. But, you know, they seem pretty down to earth, which is great. They're not part of, like, the gaming community as such, but it doesn't matter. Just, you know, explore new things. Subscribe to new channels. Branch out. Variety is the spice of life. Anyway, until my next vid, which will be next week sometime, then thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.